By popular demand, here is a little demonstration on how to use a Creative Grid stripology ruler. This is not a paid post or sponsored in any way. I bought this with my own money and it is a tool that I really do love having. Mainly use it when I have to cut binding strips to bind my quilt or have a large amount of squares or rectangles that I need to cut. I would say the main purpose of the ruler is just to speed things up because there are a bunch of slots all along the ruler that you stick a rotary cutter in so that you're able to cut your fabric quickly without having to move a ruler around. See here, you stick the rotary cutter in at the bottom and push it towards the top. There are 1/2 inch and full inch increments along the bottom, so each 1/2 inch has a slot. And they also have marked here 1.5 inch cuts and 2.5 inch cuts with these squares and stars. This makes it easier so that you're not having to kind of do math in your head as you go along. I will admit, when I first got the ruler, I was intimidated and didn't even use it at first. It just kind of sat in the corner of my sewing room. And then I was even more confused when I couldn't fit a fat quarter underneath it. So you will likely have to fold up your fabric underneath to cut it with this ruler. If you don't commonly fold your fabric for cutting, let me know and I can make a whole separate video on that. And when not using this ruler, I usually fold my fabric to cut it for long strips because it just makes it easier. You will want to fold it up enough so that it completely fits underneath the ruler. So it'll need to be less than 13 inches tall because that is how tall this ruler is. This is so you can complete the cut from one end to the other, because that is how long that slot is that your rotary cutter will fit into. Once you are ready to begin, you can go ahead and place the ruler on top of the fabric, and you just need to line things up one time before you go ahead and make all of your cuts. You'll see there's the 0 line here. You need to make sure that your fabric extends to the left slightly past the 0 mark line. We are going to cut there, and that should square up your fabric. Then there are these bottom lines here. It is kind of hard to see because this one is black, but I am lining it up with the bottom of my fabric. And over on the left, it doesn't matter really if it's lined up because we're trimming that part off to square it up. What really matters is that your bottom mark is lined up. So once you have the bottom lined up and the left past the 0 mark line, we are ready to begin cutting. I was making 2.5 inch strips here. So I'm going to slide my rotary cutter through all of the 2.5 inch increments. So 2.5, 5, 7.5, 10, and so on. This ruler goes up to 20. So I will get 8 strips out of this. I start by placing the rotary cutter blade in the 0 slot and slide upwards to square up the fabric. Then I'll go to 2.5 inches, 5 inches, and so on until I have either enough strips I need or until I get to the end of the ruler. This part is pretty easy. You just go along and make the cuts. Make sure not to shift the ruler. Creative Grids are usually pretty grippy rulers, so I usually don't have a problem with it shifting. And then you can go ahead and remove the ruler. Here are all of my strips and they are ready to be put together. There is this little piece on the left from where we squared up the fabric that you can discard or save for a scrappy project. And that is it. I have 8 with the fabric strips, and this makes making binding a breeze. Like this video and comment if you want a part 2 on how to use this ruler to make a large amount of squares at once.